It's a good day to be great and a great day to be you. Welcome back, folks, to Injection of Inspiration. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, where every single Saturday I give you your daily dose of motivational advice, helpful tips, etc., etc. And here today we'll be talking about a story that occurred 2 weeks ago, or a year ago from 2 weeks ago. I was going to talk about it 2 weeks ago, but I wanted to talk about the Always Meet Your Idols episode. Last week I was going to talk about it, but we talked about my fandom for wrestling and why you should not be ashamed of anything you're interested in. So finally, we will talk about it today. So again, 2 weeks ago, April 8th, 2016, to set the stage for the story here today that will all make sense in the end and tie in today's lesson of not freaking out, always stay calm in any situation of emergency, and not freaking out, basically. So anyway, around that time in early April of 2016, I had to go out and get more audio for a class that I was in, and coincidentally enough, I was doing a project on pro wrestling. Not even coincidentally, I had chosen my topic and my teacher, knowing that I'm a big wrestling fan. He had always believed in me. He's always believed in my fandom for pro wrestling, and he's never been a pro wrestling fan per se, but he's liked the fact that I like pro wrestling. He likes things that are different, so he liked the fact that I like pro wrestling. To kind of give you a brief summary there. So he allowed me to do one of my final projects on pro wrestling. But in order to complete the project, I had to get audio from pro wrestling shows, interviews, and specifically the topic was injuries in pro wrestling, how people, suffer the injuries, how they cover for them, do they take time off, it's not a real job, or it is, but for indie wrestlers, it's more of a weekend type thing. So he wanted to get more information on that. And in order to do that, in order to get to meet the quota of audio that I could edit and play to the class, I had to go to a pro wrestling show that weekend, and I was not prepared at all. We had talked about this on Wednesday. I had to go out and find a show that weekend that I can go to get interviews from and audio from. And I found a show, oddly enough, going on that weekend. I go to school in Massachusetts, so I found a show, a chaotic wrestling show, that would be happening that Saturday in Lowell, Massachusetts, which I was also there exactly a year ago from yesterday for an NXT show. That's neither here nor there. So I would be back there 2 weeks later for another show. But anyway, so I asked my good buddy, shout out to him at Zach Donegan on the Twitter, does great work on the Twitter machine, YouTube, awesome articles, check him out. But he and I agreed to go to Chaotic Wrestling that Saturday. I knew he did not live in Lowell, but he lived closer to that area. So we would meet up in Boston. We would go from there. I mean, I would have gone by myself regardless, but having Zach there was definitely helpful, especially with what was to come. And so we meet up in Boston. All's going well. We meet up in early Friday afternoon to get there with enough time. I mean, it took me a long-ass time to get there. I had to take a taxi to get from my school to the train station. This was before I discovered Uber. Again, more on that in a minute. So I took a taxi from my school to the train station, a train from where my school is, the town from where my school is, into Boston, and then Zach and I left from there on another train from Boston into Lowell. And then we went from Lowell, we took a bus from somewhere from there to the train station in Lowell to somewhere near the arena, which was basically a high school gymnasium, a convention center, whatever, like a bingo hall, pretty much. And we took a bus from the train station to closer to the arena, and then we walked from that, wherever the bus dropped us off, to the arena. So it took in total about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, I want to say, because both train rides, respectively, were about an hour and a half, 2 hours in total. And then it just took time to figure everything else out. So anyway, so it took us a while to get there, but it was well worth it. We got to meet Donovan Dijak. We got to meet Ron Simmons, a lot of other great wrestlers. Philip Gordon, who I know works the independent scene here in the Northeast now. He's a great wrestler, great dude too. So we watched the show. It got over super late, like around 11 or midnight. And I didn't really look at the train schedule. I just kind of figured they would have trains leaving at pretty much every time of the day, every time of the night. So I wasn't really worrying about that. And I had to stay. It's not like I could leave early. In any other instance, I probably would just to catch the train. But I couldn't in this instance because I had to get the interviews, which could not happen until after the show was over. That's when the wrestlers were free. So again, great show. Had an awesome time with Zach. We talked to Donovan Dijak and a few other wrestlers afterwards. They were all great. After we finished up the interviews, I called the taxi station to get a taxi from there to the Lowell train station. And they asked me, why do you want to go to the train station? I said, we're going to catch a train out of Lowell to Boston. And they said, we have no more running for the rest of the night. And this is around like 11:30, 12. And I'm like, oh, fuck, what do I do? So prior to that point, throughout the evening, my roommate had been texting me because he went home to go to some convention center the next day for his own project. And McFoley was going to be there. Ric Flair would be there. And he's like, do you want to go? And I said, probably not really. But he said, okay, but, you can come too if you want. I know you don't want to, but I can pick you up from the train station in Boston if you can get there. And I said, okay. And again, this is around like midnight on Friday night. So once I figure out that I can't fucking leave Lowell, I text him, and I think I called him as well. And I texted him and called him to see if he could pick me up in Lowell. And he knows this area very well. He lives around here. He lives 20 minutes out from where the school is. I'm sure it's not that far away from Lowell. And even if it was, I mean, I was in a pretty dire situation. I could not leave Lowell. I had no way of getting out of there. I did not know my way around whatsoever. So anyway, so I text and call him, get no response, which was pretty bizarre just because he's almost 9 times out of 10 up at that point in the night. And he didn't get back to me probably because he didn't want to pick me up. So instead of texting me saying either no or I will, he didn't get back to me at all. So I said, fuck you. And I had heat with him for the rest of the semester for that. And I texted and called a few other people who I figured would not be able to pick me up, but I called just in case. Didn't get anything in return. So I'm thinking, what the fuck do we do? Again, I'm there with Zach, so I'm not freaking out. Having someone else there definitely helps. But even if you're alone, you have to stay calm in any situation. Again, most people will just freak out or start crying or some shit like that, knowing there's really no other option. But there is always an option. Do not freak out. There is always a way out. No matter how, far out there it might be, you always have to sit and think about your situation, what the situation you're in is, and how you can get out of said situation. So we're sitting there thinking, okay, what the fuck are we going to do? And I'm sitting there laughing, too, with Zach, thinking, you know what, this is going to make a great story at some point. I told the story the very next day on Facebook, but I'm telling it a year later as well, just for this life lesson here. So anyway, we looked at the guy who was there. They're cleaning up the rings. That pretty much everyone is gone by this point. Everyone's clearing out of the arena. All the fans are gone. The wrestlers are on their way out. And we asked some dude that's cleaning up the ring, like, hey, if there's no train station around here that's open, do you think there's any way we can get from here to where my school is or into Boston, whatever? And he's like, well, I'm not going to give you a ride. I'm like, I'm not asking you for a ride, buddy. I'm just asking you for tips. And he's like, well, there is Uber. And I had heard of Uber through Chris Jericho's podcast and through other people, but I had never used it before. But I'm thinking, you know what? Fuck, if there's any time to do it, it would be right now because I have no other option right now. Zach can't get home. I can't get home or get back to school, whatever. This is my only option. So I downloaded the app. I hooked up all my information. Took no more than 5 minutes. And we sent out for a car, a taxi, a cab, whatever the fuck an Uber pretty much. But they're not, if you've ever used Uber, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But some kid came out probably no more than a few years older than me who did not speak much English at all. He had a very thick Indian accent, and he was very hard to understand. I'm sure he had a hard time understanding me too. But I sent him the wrong address on Uber by accident. So we're sitting there, we're standing outside because they're clearing out the arena. We have to leave. So we're standing outside for like 15, 20 minutes waiting for this guy. And I'm looking at the app like, oh shit, he's going to the wrong location. And he's calling me, texting me, like asking me where we are. And I'm like, exactly where the thing says we are. And I'd accidentally given him the wrong address. Again, I'm laughing thinking, okay, of course this would happen when I don't want it to, but it's going to make a great story, so I can't really be discouraged here. And I have Zach again, so I'm not freaking out I'm going to be mugged while I'm alone. And, we got each other's backs here in this situation. So anyway, the cab, or the Uber rather, finally arrives. And again, that's completely my fault. It wasn't the guy's fault. I gave him the wrong address. I fucked up. So we get in the car, and in the back of the car, and he's like, where are you going? And I said, we are going to my school, Endicott College. And he's like, no, where are you going? And I said, exactly. This time I didn't fuck up. I'm telling you, I know I fucked up the first time with the first address. I did not fuck up this time. I'm going to Beverly, Massachusetts, Endicott College. That's where I go to school. That's where I have to get back. And he goes, oh, shit. Because that is a total 45 minutes from where we are for this show in Lowell. And then from there to Beverly is like 40, 45 minutes. And that's pretty not normal for an Uber driver to go. And he's like, oh shit, I got to call my wife real quick and tell her I won't be home till later. I'm like, okay, do whatever the hell you want, buddy. But if you could just take us home, I will sincerely appreciate it. And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. He didn't really talk to us too much for the rest of the trip. I'm sure he was pissed he had to drive that far. He could have very easily said no. I found that out much later on, that Uber drivers, once you get in the car, and they don't find out where you're going until you get in the car. And once he found out we had to go that far, he didn't have to drive us if he didn't want to. But he did. He took the money gladly once it was all over. He was very nice about it, but he didn't have to if he didn't want to. Thank God he did, because we would have had to wait for another Uber driver, and it would have just been a complete shit show. It already was a shit show. It would have been a bigger shit show than it was. I'm pissed at my roommate. I'm not hearing back from anyone. Again, that's not my fault. That's not their fault. It's my fault. Largely, I mean, my roommate could have picked me up, but that's, again, neither here nor there. I'm not still holding any bad blood over any bad feelings anyway. So we get back to my school, finally, at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Took fucking forever. Zach stayed over at my place. He headed out the first thing the next morning after watching WrestleMania 32 on the WWE Network. But yeah, that was the story. So again, the lesson here, the moral of the story is to not freak out. Not at any point in this. I mean, people have been in far worse situations than this, but the point being, this is not an ideal situation to be in where you do not have a ride home. I'm not saying Uber is always the answer. There are parts of the country, world, whatever, where Uber is not available, but there is always going to be an option. So just sit down and think instead of complaining or freaking out. That shit is not going to get you anywhere. Sitting there, first of all, it's not productive at all. Second of all, it's not constructive, and you're just simply wasting your time. You're just complaining and freaking out. It's not going to get you anywhere. You got to sit and think about what your options are, and if there's not an option, create an option. Again, easier said than done, but you just really got to think, and again, not freak out. Again, it's a bit more difficult in situations where you're by yourself. I understand that, but again, if freaking out is the first step in just complete catastrophe, like you're fucked at that point. It's like the old saying goes, like if you are in your head thinking you're going to lose a fight or a match or whatever, you've already lost, because in your mind you've already lost. No different in this situation, in situations like these, where if you're freaking out, you've already fucking lost. You're already worse off than you were before. You have to sit, think, stay calm are the key 2 words here for today's episode. Stay calm in any situation, reevaluate your options, and then go from there. And there's always going to be an option. So again, don't freak out, stay calm, don't cry about it, don't complain, don't get angry. That stuff is just not going to do you any good. And I know I've talked about that before in previous episodes, early installments of Injection of Inspiration, where simply complaining about stuff that's beyond your control is not worth it, because it's beyond your control. Everything happens for a reason. Everything goes back to those. Everything happens for a reason. For those 5 words. I forgot how many words it was for a second, but I'm a journalism major, not a mathematician, people. But anyway, so yeah, just everything happens for a reason. Don't freak out, and just remember, stay calm. Just stay calm. If it's beyond your control, then don't worry about it. Everything will work itself out. I'm not saying sit there and don't do anything and expect an angel to drop from the sky and take you where you want to go. I'm not saying that, but everything will work itself out if you just have the will and you have the if there's a will, there's a way. I mean, as the old saying goes, as the old cliche goes, if there's a will, there's a way. Always remember that, people. So that being said, yeah, that's all I got for today's episode of Injection of Inspiration. I appreciate you guys taking the time to check out the episode. Per usual, every single Saturday, a new show goes up right here on the channel. In addition to all the other stuff that goes up here on the channel on a daily basis. From Injection of Inspiration on Saturdays to miscellaneous videos like SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 or live reaction videos or other interviews and whatnot going up on Sundays. On Mondays, WWE Network and Chill. On Tuesdays, it's Wrestle Rant. On Wednesdays, it's the hashtag AskGSM videos. On Thursday, Wrestle Rant radio excerpts. And on Friday, random video blogs. It doesn't get much better than that, people. So subscribe today. I appreciate your support. Like this video, drop a comment, share the video. All that stuff helps quite a bit in spreading awareness of the channel. The subscriber count has skyrocketed in the past month alone, just for all the videos that have been going up and your support moreover than anything else. So again, guys, I appreciate that greatly. And if you have any stories of your own that you would like to share, please do so in the comment section down below. You can share them with me on Facebook, on Twitter. I've heard some from a lot of great people across various platforms that check out these videos and other stuff I do, other content I put up on the various wrestling websites I write for, and on Twitter and on Facebook. And it means the world. You have no idea. I cannot express enough how much it means to me to hear that kind of stuff. So again, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. As I said at the start of the show, it's a good day to be great, a great day to be you. So go out and do something awesome today. I know you have it in you. I have faith in you. So again, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.